Hello folks, and I'm sure you're all doing good. Now in this video we will be discussing about closures in Rust. Now if you're coming from JavaScript background, you can kind of understand what closures is. And we have something very similar in Rust. And if you're following the Rust book, this is something you will find in the first section of the 13th chapter. And we have closures, anonymous functions that capture their environment. Rust closures are anonymous functions. You can save in a variable or pass as arguments to other functions. You can create the closure in one place and then call the closure elsewhere to evaluate it in a different context. Unlike functions, closures can capture values from the scope in which they are defined. And this is something that we will do today. And you can also follow my blog on closures in Rust in Hashnote, and I will link both of these in the description below. Now let's go back to our VS Code and let's write some closures. Basically, all the jargon that we have just read about. Now we have one if and main function. What I will do is I will remove everything and I will create a new if and main function. And let's say inside this function, we have two variables A of the type i32. Let's say the value is 5. And we have B of the type i32 and let's say the value is 10. And we have another variable C of the type i32. And let's say I want to add the two variables A and B. So I will call a function called add two nums, which we need to define of course, and we will pass A and B. And then we will simply print the result. So println C. Now we have to write the function also. So at the top, I will create another function called add2nums, and it will accept two arguments x of the type i32 and y of the type i32 because a and b are of the type i32, and the result type will also be i32, and we will simply be returning x plus y. Now, if I do a cargo run, the result will be 15. There is no doubt about that. Now this is kind of hectic because this function is very simple and we have to do so many things to add two numbers only. And this is where closures can come to save our day. So what I will do instead is I will create one variable called add, which will store our function. So I want to pass two variables. Let's name them x and y. And I want to return x plus y. So we are using, you can say, a straight bracket. And then we will create another variable called res. You can call it result. And this will do add of, let's say, a and b. And then let me also print out the result. So println, and let me write result equals to res. And we have 15 twice. So that means this whole thing that we are doing over here, this is shortened to only this much. So let me remove the C and also the above function. I believe it's not required for such a simple function. Now, one more thing to note is that here we are not giving any types to our closures, which is not required because in the end it is stored in a variable, but you can also give types. So if you come to my blog, basically, these four things mean the same thing. So the first one is a function, and then we have closures, and you can or cannot give types. One thing to note is in closures, we use straight brackets, kind of like the or symbol. And this is also called pipes. But this is something you can remember, I'm sure. And this is how we use closures. Now, one more thing to note is that although we are not giving types in our closures, we must provide them with consistent types. Kind of like this example. So let's say we have a closure and we have x, which is also returning x. And if I, let's say, first of all pass one integer and then pass a float, it will throw an error. So let me simply copy this code and let me go back to my VS Code, paste it. And now if I run this thing, as you can see, we already have an error and it is saying that mismatch types. So if I do a cargo run, you will see the error. So it is saying that mismatch types expected integer found floating point. Now if I give the floating point first, the error will come to the integer. So expected floating point number found integer. So closures are quite smart, which is also not a bad thing, I would say. Now that's it for this video. And if you have learned something new in this video, make sure to like, share and subscribe. It helps me grow the channel and also keep on making videos like this. So once again, I'll see you next time.